Today for our first episode, I was thinking what cocktail would be good to make with Father's Day being right around the corner. And when I think about a good dad cocktail, especially if I think about my dad and my father-in-law, I think about an old fashioned. Both of those gentlemen live in Wisconsin, and an old fashioned is very much a staple in Wisconsin. So what I wanted to do today was show you two different versions of a old fashioned. And then I'll also show you how you could assemble both of those versions as a gift set for dad to make his own old fashions at home. So let's start with a classic Wisconsin old fashioned. I'm going to show you how to make the drink, and then we'll talk about what you would need to do for the gift set afterwards. So let's go ahead and get started. We have our glass. We're going to start off with a nice slice of orange, drop her in, grab a couple of cherries. Now these are just like your classic maraschino cocktail cherries that you can find in any grocery store. We're gonna do two. You can go ahead, just leave the stems on or take them off either way. Get a little cherry juice in there. That's good. We're gonna add some bitters. And if you're not familiar with bitters, here's what it looks like. So this is Angostura bitters. Now they're called bitters, but that's not necessarily their flavor profile. There's a bunch of different flavors that you can get. This is kind of the classic bitters, and it has kind of a clove and allspice flavor to it, and it's very potent. So this is very much concentrated. You know, when we're mixing with liquor, the recipes will call for, you know, ounces, 1.5, 2 ounces, 3 ounces. This we're going to do in dashes. So we're going to put in about 5 dashes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of bitters. And then we're going to take some simple syrup. This is some simple syrup that I made earlier today. It is very aptly named. It is simply water and sugar. And I just did equal parts, 1 cup water, 1 cup sugar, put it in a small pot on the stove, stir it up a little bit. I got that going to a low boil and then just let it simmer for 3 or 4 minutes while stirring, and that's it. Then I just let it cool and put it in this handy dandy little squeeze bottle. So we want about 1/2 ounce to 1 ounce of simple syrup. And then what we're going to do is take our muddler, which is a nice bartending tool. And this is a great addition to the gift set if your dad doesn't have a muddler. And if you don't have one at home, you can definitely use like the back of a spoon. Like here's a, I don't know, ladle spoon thing. And I could use this. But since I have my muddler, we're going to go ahead and muddle. And a couple of things to note here as we muddle. So this is going to start to bring flavors together. So we want to get in and get those cherries all smashed up. Boom, boom. You also want to get the flesh of the orange, get that flesh of the orange in there. Get that all smashed up. But then what you also want to do is spend a little time in pressing down and smashing on the peel or the rind of the orange. There's a lot of good oils and flavors in there that we want to infuse into this drink as well. Okay, so we give it a few smashes with our muddler here, and that creates a really nice flavor base for the cocktail. Here's a look. That looks pretty good. Next, we add our ice. Good thing I had this spoon with me. Okay, we add our ice. That looks pretty good. Then we add our liquor. Now with old fashions, you want to stick to a dark liquor, ideally brandy, whiskey, or bourbon. I wouldn't really venture out from that. This is a Korbel brandy, staple in Wisconsin. And we're gonna add about 1.5 to 2 ounces here. And of course you could, add more or less depending on taste. And then we're gonna top it off with just some lemon lime soda. Here we have some 7-Up, but any lemon lime soda is just fine. Okay, now this is your classic Wisconsin old fashioned. Now a little tip here that I would give is if you look at our cocktail, it's a pretty separated drink because we muddled all these good oranges and cherries and bitters and simple syrup at the bottom. It's kind of trapped underneath the ice, and then we have our liquor and our mixer on top. So it's not really infused together that well. So what I like to do is just take another cup, or this is the bottom of a martini shaker, and I just like to toss the drink a couple times just to get a good mix going. And then you'll see the difference in coloration once we do that too. See how it's just more infused throughout. That has a nice hue to it. And then let's go ahead and garnish this drink. And here's a quick, easy garnish that you can make. It's a little boat here. So you take an orange slice, stick your toothpick or garnish stick through the end. Let's grab another cherry. Put a cherry in there. And then boom, stick it through the other end. See that? There you go. There's a nice classic Wisconsin old fashioned. Even has the frill on the toothpick. Tough to beat. It's just like we're at the supper club. Okay, so let's talk about a gift set for Dad. How would you put that together in order to give him as a gift? And there's a couple main things that you need. We're going to set this aside. So we'll start with our Korbel. You need our liquor as our base here. We will do our bottle of bitters. You want to do some cherries. Throw in an orange or two. And the simple syrup. You can buy this in the store, but like I said, it's easy to make at home, and then it has a little homemade feel to it. I think I got this bottle off of Amazon for a couple of bucks, and I'll throw this in the refrigerator door, and this will last for quite a while. So it's just kind of a good handy one to have, and we'll be using this again on future episodes of Drink for Think if we get picked up by the network. And then also we have, you could do your soda. And then if you do get a muddler, that's a great piece to the gift set. You can get this on Amazon or probably Target, any liquor store as well. And here you go. Here's your little drink set. You can put all of this together easily under $50. This is 20 or so, probably 10-ish. This is around 10, and then the rest of this as well, another 10. So for $50 or less, depending on what you do here, it's a nice little gift set for Dad. And you could also put in the recipe card as well if you wanted to add that. Now let's talk about how could we elevate this a little bit to a different version of an old fashioned. So let's start with this gift set. What could we do? Well, we could take this out and replace it with something else. In this case, I have a bottle of Maker's Mark 46. If you're familiar with Maker's Mark, it's a bourbon. Their 46 varietal is just a slightly higher level than their normal Maker's Mark. Quite tasty. And you'll see we want to keep the same flavors, but we can change the profile a little bit. And with this version, the Classic Wisconsin, it's definitely on the sweeter side. So we want to reduce some of that sweetness and just make it a little more decadent. And ways that we can do that is we can take the orange out, which will also add to the sweetness, and we can replace it with an orange bitters. Give you a look there. And then the biggest sweetness that we have in this drink, besides the simple syrup, which we'll keep, is these maraschino cherries, these kind of classic cocktail cherries. We can take those out and we can bring in a different kind of cherries. In this case, I have a jar of black cherries. This is a brand called Filthy. The big difference here, and you can see it in the color, is so these are Italian cherries that have been cooked down and reduced, and they're kind of candied and in a rich syrup. So the whole flavor is just more rich than it is sweet like here. And then there you go. So here's a different version of a gift set that you can give to Dad as well. That's just a slightly elevated old fashioned. And I'll make one really quick and show you the difference in this cocktail as well. So we're just going to slide some things out of the way. So we're going to start with the same process of muddling. We'll go with our Filthy cherries. I'm going to do 3 because they're smaller. And make sure you get a good spoon of, oh, I'm still in this juice, aren't I? A good spoon of this juice in here. It's quite good. Then we add in our bitters, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we're gonna do about the same amount too of orange bitters, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A little bit of simple syrup, just about a ½ ounce, maybe even less than this one. Just get a little muddle going here. Get those cherries all smashed up. Yum, 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 yum. Take a look there. Good smashing. Okay, let's get our ice. A handy dandy ice scooper. Now this one too, I'm gonna go a little heavier on the makers because that's really kind of the flavor that we want to get and not so much the sweetness of the 7. So I'm gonna do about 3 ounces of makers here. And you can, like I said, do more or less, but then we'll just top with just a little bit of 7. And some, you don't even have to do that. I like the carbonation though, so we like to top it just a little 7. And same thing, here, take a look at this right now. You see how the cherries are on the bottom? Toss. There we go. Throw a cherry in, boom. So we got our classic Wisconsin Old Fashioned and a slightly elevated version here with our Makers 46. There you go. 2 Old Fashions, 2 gift sets for Dad. They're gonna be happy either way. You know, you can add different types of liquor if he has a preference and kind of create it around that. If you're going to go higher end like a Makers 46, I would elevate the rest of the packaging as well. Hope you enjoyed our first episode of Drink for Think. If you have any cocktails that you would like to learn how to make at home, please put them in the comments and we can do that on a future episode because frankly I haven't thought past episode 1. Looks like I have some work to do here, so cheers.